This clip is brought to you by SaveWithConrad.com.
But here's where we're starting to get to the nitty gritty. The final appearances of Diesel and Razor in the WWF came in a strange curtain call finale of the Click before the first indoor non-pay-per-view house in WWF history to top $300,000 on May 19th. The Garden's second straight sellout, the first time it's happened in 11 years, of 18,800 fans paying $319,411.
Well, let me back up before you can go into this. Okay. That weekend, the last dates that they were with us, and I believe we were in Philadelphia and maybe Baltimore, Philadelphia. I don't recall. I'm pretty damn sure that one of them was Philadelphia, and the Garden being the last one. We were on that tour. Pat and I were going on it anyway, and Vince ended up, riding with us, and we went and made all of those live events. And I would have to say that those last three events where Kevin and Scott was probably the most fun I ever had with those two guys, where they were in absolute great spirits. They were easy to get along with, easy to do business with, and fun. So up until what you're going to discuss here in a minute, there was even a part of me going, you know what, man? I'm almost a little sad they're leaving if we could have these guys all the time.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. Well, let's talk about it. The Garden's second straight sellout here, $319,000. Many were saying it's the best MSG show since WrestleMania 10. And here's the write-up. Both Diesel and Ramon, in their final appearances before starting with WCW in mid-June, were the recipient of "You Sold Out" and "Please Don't Go" chants by a decent percentage of the crowd that seemed to know it was their final show. Ramon was booed in his match with Hunter and heavily booed with a loud "You Sold Out" chant after he did the job. After the match, he grabbed the house mic, and before he could get more than a few words out, panicked WWF officials, since this wasn't part of the show, cut the power. As it was, all Ramon ended up saying was something to the effect of, "Say goodbye to the bad guy." However, it wasn't over for the bad guy just yet. After a very strong main event cage match where Shawn Michaels beat Diesel to keep the title, it was time for the curtain call. Michaels had won the match by walking out of the cage after laying Diesel out with a super kick, and after the match, Michaels kissed Diesel, who revived like a frog kissed by the princess, and the two hugged in the ring. Diesel got a lot more cheers during the match than most would have figured, although Michaels was still the most popular wrestler on the show. Ramon and fellow Click member Helmsley then came to the ring, and the four got on all four posts and gave the Click signals to the fans, some of whom were teary-eyed, saying it's one of the best moments of wrestling in Madison Square Garden in years. Supposedly, the final display wasn't approved by WWF officials, but it got over great with the audience, so little will probably result from it. However, there were other wrestlers who were very unhappy at what they considered a kayfabe violation, particularly since Helmsley was in the ring hugging Ramon, and Diesel had just finished a match with Michaels and magically arose from a finishing move by being kissed. The other Click member, 123 Kid, wasn't at this show, as his future with the company is somewhat in question after he showed up at the Superstars taping in no condition to perform and won't be back until June at the earliest. So a lot to unpack here. It is interesting. Quote, "So little will probably result from it." And depending on who you believe, that's not the case. Take us back to this so talked about moment.
I hated it. I absolutely hated it. I didn't know anything about it until it actually happened when the guys went out. I'm kind of like, what the fuck? And Shawn went down and did the kiss, and Diesel popped up, and they all hugged, and they started going around the ring, and we left. So that's all I saw.
Did you guys go to one of those steakhouse dinners that were famous after MSG? And if so, what was the tone and tenor of that?
I don't know. I think we went out and ate afterwards, but I know Jim Cornette was with us, and he was not happy. I wasn't happy. Vince wasn't happy. And but it's you can bitch about it all you want. It was done. that point, what are you going to do? Fire him?
I want to mention too, this last tour of duty here, these last string of house show matches, it's headlined by Shawn versus Diesel, and usually it's with the British Bulldog interfering. But there was a Hershey show, and Kevin Nash is refusing, saying, I'm not going to do a double shot. So on that show, Davey Boy worked against Shawn. You know, you said going into the weekend, you wish, we could have these guys hang out more often. Was part of was part of the crew behind the scenes just sort of exhausted with all this? Like, just fucking go already.
Yes, I think so.
Okay. I get it. It's a wrestling podcast, but he's saving us money on our mortgage. Do you really trust this process? The reviews don't lie. 5-star review after 5-star review. We make it fast, we make it easy, and it's no cost or obligation. Give us a shot to earn your business. I'm telling you, you'll be glad you did, especially if you like keeping more of your own money. You don't need perfect credit or money out of your pocket. So what are you waiting for? Hurry to savewithconrad.com. Let's get into it. We return to the Diesel story with Kevin Nash being the WWF World Heavyweight Champion, and he's about to team up with Shawn Michaels as two dudes with attitude. Before we get started, the WWE Network on Peacock, or whatever it's called now, just did a feature on these two that you were heavily involved in. Do you enjoy doing these behind the scenes documentaries for the network? Because you're great on them. You hate it? You don't like it?
I like it.
Why not?
Well, I'm okay, but gosh, Bruce, you do a podcast and you talk about all this shit. Did you notice most of the stuff that we talk about has all been talked about before by someone else? And I was just trying to put a truthful spin on it from a different vantage point, not from a hearsay vantage point, not from some little bitch in California typing on his little typewriter that he doesn't even know what week it is because his office is such a shambles. Spin on it. So I don't know. I think they're beautiful pieces of work when they come out. They're pretty good, but it's little shit like my hair looked like shit in the Shawn Michaels A&E deal,
and that was their fault. That wasn't your fault. Yeah,
it was their fault, and here's why. Because when we do our shit, most of the time we have hair and makeup there. They don't. Well, so yeah, it was my fault. I didn't brush my hair out before I fucking did it. So yeah.
Well, fuck them for letting you look like you look, you know? Why would they do that?
Oh man, it was parts of it were like sticking up and shit. It was horrible.
You need to talk to somebody about that. How dare they let you look like you look?
Thank you.
Nonsense.
I'm a damn good looking man.
You got to put up with that kind of shit.
Yeah, I ain't got to put up with that kind of shit.
WrestleMania 12, Undertaker pinned Diesel in 1646 with a tombstone. We just recently talked about this match in the WrestleMania 12 episode, so I don't know that there's much more to talk about. But if you want to know more about that match, please go check out WrestleMania 12 in the archives. It's somethingtowrestle.com. Meltzer would say the WWF took excellent advantage of its largest Raw audience ever with one of its best shows ever. The company shot angles to heat up the upcoming Shawn Michaels versus Diesel and Warrior versus Goldust matches on pay-per-view on April 28th. They also built further into the future for an eventual pay-per-view with Vader versus Yoko that'll likely take place in May or June, and Ahmed versus Davey, which should be a house show program. So it's interesting that Diesel and Razor are leaving. Things are getting hot. Was there a thought to try and keep the band together at this point on TV and just make the most out of the ratings? Or these days, would you just probably ease them off TV?
I think the idea was to ease them off TV and move on more than anything else.
They're both going to finish up, Meltzer believes, on May 19th. I believe that after the pay-per-view and TV tapings, they're both going to work Baltimore, Philly, and the Madison Square Garden house show run from the 17th to the 19th, and that's it. And he also says there's no truth to any rumors that Ramon wanted to stay and was turned down. That's probably the whole.
Hang on. Here again, rumors and him being wrong. I think Scott didn't want to leave.
Yeah.
Scott definitely didn't want to leave. And up until the last minute, Scott did come back with, well, if you did this, you would, if you could guarantee me money and you could do this, so Scott was pitching up until he left. I don't think Kevin was. I don't recall Kevin doing that, but Scott did, because Scott actually pitched me and he pitched Vince. And we couldn't, just couldn't do that just for them at that time.
We just talked about Shauna Diesel putting on an incredible performance at In Your House in Omaha. Check that out in the archives from last month or earlier this month.
Hey, it's Conrad Thompson. Thanks for checking out the podcast here on YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notification